2. The enormous power of will and its efficacy. It happened in the year 1981. An English lady named Patrick Mary found herself inflicted with breast cancer. Pathological examinations revealed that other parts of her body were also indicating symptoms of cancerous growth. She was declared terminally ill and informed that though treatment was being continued as a matter of routine, she had hardly 6 months left to survive. The news was shocking. Was there no treatment possible? She queried. The doctors attending on her told in one voice that had she got herself examined a few months earlier and had correct diagnosis been made in time, perhaps she could have been treated and saved her life. Why did she not get herself examined earlier? There was a reason. Then there was only one CAT scanning machine available in England and there were long queues of patients awaiting their turn to be examined. For this reason, many patients could not get themselves examined before it was too late. Patrick Mary was one of them. When she had only 6 months left to live, why should not she make the best use of her remaining life, she mused. She thought that it was not possible for her to arrange for installation of such machines all over her country, since each of them was then worth 30 million rupees. But if she could concentrate all her energy and resources, she could at least arrange for 2 such installations and save the life of 50% patients. Patrick formulated her plan of action. She spoke about her pitiable situation on the national telecast, suggesting about the possibility of saving the life of many like her, if arrangements could be made for 30 million rupees for installation of one more CAT scan machine. The telecast made an impact on many philanthropists who began to send contributions according to their faith in the cause. It encouraged the lady further, who now began to dedicate her entire time and energy for this mission. As a consequence, the entire local administration came forward to provide the logistics necessary for commissioning of other machines within the stipulated period. During these activities, she remained so actively involved and engrossed in her work that she totally forgot about her own disease, its treatment, and even about her other personal affairs. After her objective was achieved, one day she was again reminded of her ailment by her associates, who advised her to consult her physicians to find out how many days of her remaining life were left. But the doctors who examined her thoroughly were surprised to find that not a trace of cancerous tissues was left in her body. She was fully cured. To solve the riddle of this unusual transformation, a committee of medical experts was constituted. After prolonged investigations, the committee reached the unanimous conclusion that the only reason for appearance of this unusual competence for recovery has been her total disregard to death and disease, ignoring which she had used her entire willpower for higher goals of philanthropic activities. The above incidents proves that the willpower inherent in man, if properly developed, is many times more potent as curative for disease than the cumulative capacity of medicines, surgery, and specialization of medical practitioners. But it does not merely necessitate curbing tendencies of regressive thinking about personal deprivations and replacing them with endeavors for strengthening and diverting the power of will for some desired objective. It also specifically requires channelizing one's energy and resources for acts of benevolence which generate and develop a new source of life from within one's inexhaustive storehouse of bioenergy lying dormant within the inner self. The above case is not an isolated event. A young woman of Florence who had become engaged and was about to be married had to face a long separation from her fiancé, who had gone out of the country and could return only after 20 years. She did not lose hope and forced herself to believe in constancy of her youth in order to appear young at the time of her marriage. Each day when she looked into the mirror, she would make herself believe that she was becoming more beautiful day by day. The miracle did happen. When her fiancé returned, He found her more beautiful than earlier and they married to live happily. This is another example of willpower, Sankalp Shakti. The Puranas, ancient scriptures, are full of detailed descriptions of such instances. Hanuman was only an ordinary employee of Sugriva. When he was asked to cross the sea for gathering information about Sita, he believed that the task was beyond his existing capacity. When Jamvant reminded him about the enormous power he was capable of commanding on activation of his dormant source of energy, he agreed to take up the apparently impossible task and succeeded in his efforts. Indian philosophy of spirituality and science of Yog Sadhana had been famous the world over. It has been found fully capable of igniting sparks of divinity in man. Time and again it has been proved by many examples. There are numerous instances in history of ancient India about the power of boons and banes given by persons who had paranormal capabilities. During past few centuries, scientific inventions have changed the face of the world by miraculous achievements. But Bharat, ancient India, had always had a special significance in human evolution. It has been contributing to the mankind a large class of rishis and munis, philosophers and research scholars in spirituality, and supermen, who have helped in the progress of not only this country but also of the surrounding regions to such an extent that it has resulted virtually in descent of heaven on earth. The cultural wave created by philosopher Kondanya had engulfed a large area in the Middle East, and contributed to overall development and prosperity to such an extent that it became virtually a cultural protectorate of Bharat. Life and legends of Kumarjiv still continue to serve as a lighthouse for the humanity. Born in a poor family in the state of Bihar, he walked all the way to study at Takshashila University situated on the northern corner of Kashmir. In the meantime, his attention was drawn towards the large region of China, where he saw a good scope for acceptance of Buddhism, which is a branch of Hindu religion. Devoid of resources and taking a great risk of life, he reached China after crossing marshy plateaus of Gobi and large desertic expanses of Khota. Notwithstanding the constraints of alien language and culture, he became so forceful a protagonist of religion that he succeeded in bringing not only China but also neighboring areas of Siberia, Korea, Japan and other regions within the folds of Buddhism. A talented person does not find it difficult to seek associates and followers for a good or bad objective, but credit is given to only those who move with the force of a tempest and carry along with them the most insignificant persons as well to heights of success. Napoleon used to say that the word impossible is found only in the dictionary of fools. When he decided to cross the formidable obstacle of Alpanian range, he found that he was too insignificant a person in comparison to many earlier aspirants who had lost their life in attempting to do so. But the power of his will assured him that Alps was bound to provide a way to a determined person like him. It did. Chanakya belonged to an humble Brahmin family, but with his firm determination to avenge an insult, he razed the mighty Nanda Empire to ground. Not only that, he carried his campaign further and resolved to protect Bharat permanently from recurring attacks of invaders who were strengthening their foothold after successive onslaughts of invasion and using the resources of this country for this purpose. His penetrating eyes located an appropriate person in Chandragupta who was trained and motivated to fight constantly against the prevailing terrorism, till it was totally uprooted. Initially, Chandragupta felt hesitant and enumerated and elaborated the numerous problems which were likely to be found in course of this endeavor. Chanakya made Chandragupta react valorously by provoking him, pointing out that the former was expressing weakness and cowardice because of his mean lineage, whereas Chanakya himself had always translated his thoughts into action and has brought his schemes to successful completion. He implored Chandragupta to shed his indecision and be only a party to his scheme, which always had some fruitful purpose and never had any element of doubt of failure in implementation. Chandragupta bowed down to his decision. He followed instructions verbatim and succeeded in achieving that which his predecessors had found utterly impossible and had resigned to fate. The science of Chetna, bioenergy, is an ancient science developed in India, which has also been known by various other names like Yog Sadhana, Tapashcharya, etc. Indian scriptures, Puranas, are full of legends of people who had acquired paranormal capabilities by carrying out research in this branch of science. After all, what is the mystery behind the miracles of yoga exercises? Those having studied and practiced yoga meticulously are well aware that what appears to be a result of perseverant endeavors of specified rituals associated with exercises of strict self-disciplines, titiksha, is in fact a process of development of power of will and kindling of the spark of bioenergy lying dormant within the being. Therein lies the fountainhead of divine powers. Just as fruits and flowers do not drop down from the sky and then get stuck to trees, the divine powers too are also not showered by the gods from heavens above us. Like nutrient fluids drawn by the roots from earth, which strengthen the stem, provide a widespread canopy of leaves, flowers and fruits, and provide the tree enough strength to brace strong vines, the powers of a Siddh Purush, a person with supernormal capabilities, are drawn from within one's own inner self and take one to the pinnacles of success of the desired peak. These super persons show others the way to success by providing direct examples by their deeds. Motivated by them, at times even the least active and indifferent persons begin to produce miraculous results. The modern man considers his body itself as the supreme deity. 3/4 of human energy is lost in making it stout and strong. In spite of this much of effort, chests full of articles of personal decorations, equipments of comfort, costly items of diet and medicines and tonics do not produce the desired results. The more affluent persons are found to be more prone to diseases and have on an average lesser longevity than the poor deprived ones. Even the merchants of medical practice and their families are unable to avoid diseases and, if not openly, secretly continue to abuse the so-called science of dietetics. The power of will shows an entirely different way to health. The Maasai tribal of Africa fulfill the traditional precondition of matrimony generation after generation by fighting and killing lions with the help of spears only. Till he became adolescent, the world-famous wrestler Sando was a bony person suffering from respiratory infections. Then he was shown a new way of life by his guide, which made him healthy and strong day by day till he became a wrestler of world fame. Chandagi Ram of India, who was awarded with the title Hind Keshri by Government of India, was a patient of tuberculosis. For fear of contagion, people avoided contact with him. But when he gathered courage to transmute his will and changed his habits drastically, Goddess Nature became pleased with him and transformed into a wrestler of India fame. Ancient legends have peculiarities of their own. Javan Rishi, who was somehow counting his days building mounds of mud, was so much transformed by attempting a change in his outlook and direction of effort, that the famous Vaidya Ashwini Kumar was forced to take cognizance of him and made him regain his youth. Then he, whose death was being anxiously awaited by foxes and jackals, was waited upon by a princess of unusual beauty like Sukanya. Then there is that famous story of rejuvenation of Yayati. And who does not know about Hanuman, who was ever from his childhood famous as Pavan Putra Pranpunj, an inheritor of the power of wind and a concentrated charge of bioenergy? Even as a child he had so much density in his body, that when he fell, an enormous block of rock was pulverized by the impact. Parvati, who had been reduced to a skeleton because of prolonged practice of asceticism, had in no time regained her youth and unparalleled beauty after marrying Shiv. It was Arjun who could pierce an aquifer by his arrow in the barren battlefield of Kurukshetra to acquire potable water for his dying Guru Bhishma Pitama. When Parshuram, the son of Jamdagni, resolved to avenge for the mistreatment of his father, he chopped the mighty Sahasrabahu, having strength of 1,000 arms, to pieces like vegetables with his spade only, and on challenge managed to kill all his associates in a similar manner. Arjun was a person of defeatist thinking. What made him the mightiest warrior of Mahabharata was that discourse of Krishna, Gita, which made his will strong by deploring for inactions and cajoling for encouragement, bringing out a capacity Arjun himself was not aware of. The desires of modern man are confined to his prosperity, health and fame. An average man is found busy working day and night for the same. Whatever little one achieves is found evaporating in space in no time. In this confounding environment of dilemma and confusion, one should try to understand and make others understand that the epicenter of numerous divine attributes is the pranagni, bioenergy, within one's own self, activation of which should be regarded as the ultimate endeavor of man and considered bestowal of the supreme grace of God. What man needs today is permanency of these divine attributes, their augmentation each day, and ultimate utilization for the final of the new world order, which is growing now as a small seed and will be converted in the new era into a large banyan tree. There are numerous examples in history showing that association with crusades for welfare of mankind has invariably provided persons lasting name, fame and success. Divine grace had in the past enriched Sudama, Narsi Mehta, Sugriva and Vibhishan so much that they found an important place in the history of mankind. Amongst fruitful healthy endeavors of man may be included the deeds of Pandavas, who were incarnations of divinity. The high status of Dhruva and Prahlad was rarely achieved by other men. The 7 rishis became immortal. Narad found a free access to the abode of God whenever he so desired. Who is the owner of divine attributes? Who makes the endeavor? Where from come celestial powers? Undoubtedly it is God who is responsible for all this. Which is the nearest place where one can be assured of finding him? He lives in the fire of life force, Pranagni, existing within the inner self of man. He lives in one who has developed the capacity to achieve all resources by virtue of being a man, by understanding the nature of this Pranagni and activating it for a fruitful endeavor. The heavy incessant downpour descending down from the heaven from time to time collects only in those tanks which have the capacity of appropriate depth and extension. For fulfilling all desires, whether for acquisition of spiritual powers, riddhi and siddhi, or entry into heavens or deliverance, one has to necessarily kindle that fire of life which is the direct extension of God within self.